Hello, my name is John Peterson IV, and today's video presentation will be titled Prince vs. Warner Brothers, a never-ending battle. In 1977, at the age of 18, Roger Nelson Prince signed a record deal contract with Warner Brothers Records. By 1978, Prince had released his first album titled For You. All of the tracks were produced, arranged, composed, and performed by Prince. The album didn't have much success and only reached 163 on the US charts. Prince released an album every year without making any significant success. At the time, the label kept him on because of his talents as a musician. Warner was known for investing long-term in serious talent. But things began to shift for Prince between 1982 and 1984. A year after MTV launched the famous song 1999, Prince rose to the top 10 in the US for the first time. He utilized the power of music videos, and by 1984, the release of Purple Rain brought huge success connected to the film he starred in. Between 1985 and 1992, Prince's popularity had become global and his leverage increased. He started his own label, Paisley Park Records. As he continued to grow, he brought forth great artists like George Clinton and Sheila E. As he continued to make new music and would remain popular. But Warner wouldn't budge. They had the rights to the music, and that gave them control over the artist. As a result, in the early 90s, Prince fought back. First by writing the word slave on his face as a representation publicly of how he felt he was being treated by Warner Brothers. He wanted control of his music, and he lacked the leverage to get Warner Brothers to agree to renegotiate his contract to allow him to have more control. After realizing the negotiations were not working on his behalf, he did what has been referred to as the fourth boldest move in rock history. Prince changed his name to a glyph and began being referred to as the artist formerly known as Prince. He figured that if he released music under his new name, that Warner wouldn't be able to retain the rights to his new songs. Warner Brothers took Prince to court, and they won. An over 20-year battle finally comes to an end. Warner Brothers versus Prince. Prince's bargaining position was his demands to get his masters, the rights to his music, and the control of what he put out, when, and how often. Prince's underlying interest, the why, was that he wanted his creative freedom, and to get that, he would have to renegotiate his contract. Warner Brothers' bargaining position was that they demanded they keep his masters, and that they retain the control over him as an artist. Warner Brothers' underlying interest, the why, was that Prince had become a valuable asset. They had invested in him, and they knew they were entitled to continue managing Prince's work and everything associated with his name because they were granted the power through the contract. After years of back and forth battles pertaining to who was right and who was wrong, years of not being able to reach an agreement due to one-sided communication skills, based on Warner Brothers having the upper hand during negotiations holding the contracts, the tables would finally turn and negotiations would finally shift. Leverage would finally shift in Prince's favor due to his knowledge of the 1976 Copyright Revision Act, which stated he would have the ability to terminate master recording copyright after 35 years. Warner was unsure how things would play out due to the work for hire clause if things had made it to court. This helped them decide to negotiate the revisions and have a better chance of retaining control of some of the artist's catalog eligible for copyright terminations. Prince finally wins, not only his rights and masters, but also a 20 to 25% of the royalties, a position as vice president of artists and repertoire, and an office in Warner's LA headquarters. This was a win-win mutual benefit outcome because Prince got what he wanted. Warner Brothers remained involved, and Prince's record label gained the backing in promotion and distribution. The biggest thing that went wrong in this negotiation was the approaches taken towards making a solid agreement. With two strong commander-style communicators, there was no way to reach a settlement when both sides felt strongly about what they wanted and why. Instead of focusing on how they could appease both sides to reach a common ground, in turn, this battle went on too long and probably would have continued until the playing field actually became more level. The greatest thing that I think stood out to me during the negotiations would have to be the ending result. By finding a way to reach common ground and providing both sides with what they wanted, a stronger business relationship was formed that appeared to offer great possibilities for a solid future of joint business ventures. Sadly, Prince's victory was short-lived because 2 years after the agreements were made, on April the 21st, 2016, a legend died, and the fight continues as to who will inherit his estate and gain control of preserving his legacy. Oddly enough, in lieu of the importance of obtaining his rights as an artist, Prince's will and testimony still has not surfaced. Forbes estimates his estate to be worth somewhere between $150 and $300 million. Because he had no legal wife or children at the time of his death, a judge in Minnesota has appointed Prince's long-term bank, Bremer Trust, to administer his estate. If no will surfaces according to Minnesota inheritance law, Prince's estate will be divided among his sisters, Tika Nelson, and 5 half-siblings, as long as no one comes forth with proof of being his biological child or children. Thank you for your time, and I hope the presentation has been informative. A moment of silence for a legend gone, but never forgotten.